I never imagined my biggest enemy would be standing in my own driveway, wearing a beige pantsuit and holding a clipboard like it was a sword. But that's exactly how it started. The HOA president hijacked our Wi-Fi and fined us $500 a day after my 16-year-old son locked her out of the network. Her excuse? A community security audit. The only thing stolen that day was my self-control. But let me rewind. The roar of my lawn mower filled the Saturday air. It was a good sound. A man versus nature kind of sound. I was winning. The grass was losing. I carved a perfect line down the edge of my driveway, proud of the crisp border between order and chaos. My yard, my rules. That's why I bought a house, to have a slice of the world that was mine. Then her voice hit me like a slap of cold water. You're a quarter-inch too low. I didn't have to turn. I knew the voice, sharp enough to curdle milk at 50 feet. I killed the engine. Silence rang out like a gunshot. Karen Grayson, president of the Ridgeview Oaks Homeowners Association. She stood there like a statue of disappointment, arms crossed, clipboard clutched like a holy relic. Her blonde helmet of hair hadn't moved in years. "Excuse me," I said, pretending I hadn't heard her. She tapped her pen against the clipboard. Article 4, Section B, Paragraph 3. Lawn height must be maintained between 2 and 3 inches. Your mower deck is too low. You're scalping. It's unsightly. I glanced at my yard. Green. Cut. Still very much grass. It's my lawn, Karen. She smiled, but her eyes didn't. It is. But it's in my neighborhood. And here, we follow community standards. She checked a box on her clipboard. This is your official verbal warning. The next offense is a $50 fine. A fine? For mowing my lawn. I'm never joking when it comes to property values, she said, using my name like it tasted sour. Mark. The screen door creaked. Tara stepped out with a glass of iced tea and that calm but worried look she wears when she knows I'm 2 seconds from losing it. Everything okay? She asked. Karen turned syrupy sweet. Just reminding Mark about landscaping protocol. We wouldn't want the neighborhood to look unkempt. I clenched my fists. You know what's really unkempt, Karen? Your personality. The mask slipped. Her eyes narrowed. That's a $100 fine for homeowner to board member harassment. She ripped the form from her clipboard and held it out like a summons. You'll receive a copy in the mail. Have a lovely day. She turned and marched off, her beige pantsuit flapping like a villain's cape. I stood there, fists clenched, next to a silent mower and a $150 ticket for cutting my lawn. This isn't about grass, I muttered. It's about control. Tara touched my arm. Breathe. She's not worth it. It's not her. It's the principal. And yelling at her won't fix it. I knew she was right. But I also knew something else. This was just the opening shot. That piece of paper in my hand? It was a declaration of war. And Karen Grayson had no idea who she just picked a fight with. We moved to Ridgeview Oaks for the peace and quiet. Tree-lined streets. Good schools. Neighbors who waved. And for a year, that's exactly what we got. Backyard barbecues. Tara's tomato garden. Even Kevin, our teenage code wizard, occasionally came outside. Then the HOA president retired. Mr. Henderson, kind, harmless, king of the potluck circuit. He moved to Florida. Enter Karen Grayson. She ran unopposed. Promised community excellence. Most of us didn't show up to vote. We were busy, we had lives. That was mistake number 1. Karen won, and things changed overnight. First came the emails, daily with new rules. Trash bins must be regulation brown. Holiday lights limited to a 10-day window. Mailboxes polished weekly. It was bureaucratic madness. Then came the fines. Fred, my next-door neighbor, got the first taste. He's harmless, a little eccentric. Has over 200 garden gnomes decorating his yard. Gnomes fishing, playing poker, even Elvis gnomes. Karen deemed them aesthetic violations. She can't take my gnomes. Fred wailed on my porch, gripping the notice like it was a death sentence. Norman and Nettie have been together 15 years. We fought it. Attended the next HOA meeting. Karen at the head table like a general flanked by hypnotized lieutenants. Fred made his plea. Karen stared through him. The rules are the rules. Next item. Fred moved the gnomes to his backyard. Then she passed a rule. Fences must be under 5 feet. Fred's was 6. Down it came. Petty. Precise. Personal. She picked us off, one by one. Rusty basketball hoops. Wind chimes labeled noise pollution. And all the while, dues went up 30%. She was building a kingdom, and the HOA bylaws were her swords. Tara and I kept our heads down. Painted the trim. Bought the right trash can. We thought obedience would buy us peace. That was mistake number 2. Karen didn't care about rules. She cared about submission. She didn't want order, she wanted control. And my unwillingness to scalp my grass to her liking? That wasn't just defiance. That was rebellion. I thought I was fighting a petty tyrant. But Karen Grayson's little empire? It was built on something far darker than garden ordinances. Can you stop it? I asked. Kevin's slow, sharp grin told me everything I needed to know. It was the same grin he gave before beating some impossible level in a video game. Oh, I can do better than that, he said. I can cut them off and lock the door behind them. The protective part of me snapped into action. All restraint vanished. Do it. Tara didn't speak at first. She knew this was risky. She also knew I was done being pushed around. After a long moment, she gave a single nod. Lock it down, Kevin. He marched back into his room, his command center. But this time, the clicking and clacking of keys had a new rhythm. It wasn't a game. It was war. Minutes later, he called out, "They're out." I set up a 32-character encrypted firewall. She's not getting back in. Across the street, as if in cinematic symmetry, Karen Grayson sat in the clubhouse stabbing at her iPad. Instead of her usual surveillance dashboard, a glowing red error flashed across the screen. Viper pipeline disconnected. Source node compromised. Her face turned sheet white. She had just lost control, and for the first time, the Queen looked afraid. Back in our living room, the victory was sweet. But it lasted only 17 hours. The next afternoon, she stormed onto our lawn, pink blouse blazing, HOA router dangling from one hand, phone clenched in the other. Changing your Wi-Fi password without HOA approval is illegal, she shrieked, loud enough for the whole cul-de-sac to hear. Kevin calmly closed the curtains. I clenched my jaw and said nothing. The next morning, I found an orange sticker slapped on my car window. Final towing notice. Violation of Article 6, vehicle parked for more than 12 consecutive hours. The car was in my own driveway. She's not even pretending anymore, I growled, slapping the sticker on the kitchen counter. Tara looked up from her coffee. This is retaliation. She knows we locked her out. Of course she knows. Probably woke up and couldn't stream her evil master plan. The week that followed was open warfare. A fine for recycling bins set out the night before pickup. A citation for a single weed growing from a crack in the sidewalk. And then, the kicker. An official violation notice slipped under our door. Unauthorized and hostile wireless network detected. Hostile Wi-Fi? I read aloud in disbelief. What am I gonna do? Beam angry thoughts at her? She's making it up now, Kevin said, scanning the paper. She's throwing everything she can at us just to see what sticks. Well, it's sticking, I muttered, gesturing to the growing pile of fines. We're already out $500. I needed advice. I headed to Fred's backyard, where I found him polishing an Elvis gnome. Hostile Wi-Fi, huh? Fred shook his head. That's a new one. Last week, she fined me for attracting undesirable avian elements. I think she just hates blue jays. But what do we do? I asked. We can't let her keep draining our bank account. Fred sighed, setting Elvis down gently. Karen's world, Mark. We're just paying rent. She buried everyone who pushed back in legal fees, he added. We've got us. She's got a lawyer. Paid with our dues. I left more angry than when I arrived. That was her power. She didn't just fine you, she broke you. I decided to confront her. I found her near the clubhouse, micromanaging a flower bed of officially approved petunias. Her face hardened as I approached. "Mark, my car was in my driveway. You know that," I said. "The weed, the Wi-Fi violation, it's harassment." She gave a bitter laugh. "I call it diligent enforcement. This isn't about the rules. It's about what happened when we cut off your internet." Her eyes flared. She stepped closer, her voice cold and venomous. "I don't know what you're talking about. But if I were you, I'd be very careful. People who cause instability here tend to find life gets very uncomfortable." It was a threat, clear and direct. She turned her back on me and resumed directing the planting crew like a dictator inspecting a parade. I walked home seething. Tara was right, shouting wouldn't work. Fred was right, fighting alone was suicide. Karen had the rules, the lawyers, the money. We had each other, and barely that. Every day brought a new violation. We were prisoners in our own house. That night, I lay in bed replaying her words. Security. Stability. Bandwidth. Why did she need that much data? Why tap into the whole neighborhood? This wasn't about watching Netflix. I slipped into Kevin's room. He was asleep, glowing monitor still scrolling lines of code. I stared at the screen, not understanding any of it, but I understood him. He'd kicked the hornet's nest. And maybe, just maybe, he could uncover why the hornets were angry in the first place. The next morning I said it out loud. "She's hiding something." Kevin looked up from his cereal. "I need you to do something," I said, my voice low. "And it might be illegal. If you don't want to." "I'm listening," he said without hesitation. "I want you back in that network. Quiet this time. Be a ghost. Find out what she was doing with that bandwidth." He grinned slowly. "I can do that." For the next 2 days, Kevin became a ghost. Barely left his room. Just the tapping of keys and the occasional whispered request for a sandwich through the door. Tara was pale. "Are you sure about this? What's the alternative?" I asked. "Let her bleed us dry?" We had one weapon she didn't, Kevin. On the third night, close to midnight, he emerged. His face was pale. His eyes wide with adrenaline. "You need to see this." He placed the laptop on the coffee table. "I got in," he said. "It was hard. She's using serious hardware, industrial-grade stuff." He pulled up a map on the screen. Lines, nodes, servers. A digital spiderweb. She created a massive private network using our internet, every resident's connection, to shield herself. "It's a smokescreen." "A smokescreen for what?" Tara asked. Kevin hesitated. "I couldn't break all the encryption. But the traffic, it's huge. Encrypted servers. Offshore." I found one name that kept popping up. He typed. One word filled the screen in white block letters. "Viper." "What is Viper?" I asked. "I don't know. But whatever it is, it's massive. Terabytes of video data constantly uploading and downloading. And the money." He showed us the financials. HOA dues. Converted to crypto. Wired out to the same network. Silence gripped the room. "This isn't just petty revenge," Tara whispered. "It's criminal. Our perfect little neighborhood, the white fences, the garden walks, the stupid mailbox rules, was a front. Karen Grayson wasn't just a tyrant in a pantsuit. She was the gatekeeper of something monstrous. We were the only ones who knew. And we were in far deeper than we'd ever imagined." Tara's voice broke the silence. "We need to go to the police." It was the obvious move. The sane move. "No," I said too quickly. Her eyes widened. "Mark, are you serious? This isn't a lawn dispute anymore. This is organized crime." "But what do we tell them?" "That our 16-year-old hacked into a secure HOA network. They'll confiscate Kevin's laptop. We'll lose our only proof. And Karen will spin it. She'll say Kevin planted everything. They'll believe her, a respected community leader, over us." Kevin nodded grimly. "Dad's right. They'll charge me with cybercrime. Karen walks. I go to juvie." The best-case scenario never came. Reality hit like a brick. We were trapped. The truth we had uncovered was too volatile to expose. Going to the authorities would mean detonating our own lives while Karen walked away unscathed. Doing nothing meant living atop a criminal operation, our money fueling something dark, unknown. Every day, Karen Grayson held our destruction in her perfectly manicured hands. This was our moral crossroads. A place where both paths looked fatal. Do you protect your own and let the rot grow? Or do you risk everything for justice that might never come? One instinct rose above the rest: protection. I had to protect my son. I had to protect my wife. And I was starting to learn just how far a man would go to do that. So, what do we do? Tara asked, voice shaking. We can't live like this. I looked at Kevin. He was staring at his laptop, at that single word, VIPER. He hadn't just stumbled on this. He had hunted it down. He had skills. He had a weapon Karen didn't know existed. We can't go to the police, I said slowly. A dangerous plan forming in my mind. Not yet. We need something they can't deny, real proof. No screenshots. No digital trails they can dismiss. We need something physical. Something that nails Karen and Viper to the wall. You mean we investigate this ourselves? Tara said, horrified. Mark, we're not detectives. You sell insurance. I clean teeth. Kevin's in high school. And Karen is a glorified neighborhood dictator, I countered, voice hardening. But look what she's built. We're not who we were last week. We know the truth, and that means we're the only ones who can act on it. We need to outsmart her. Beat her at her own game. I turned to Kevin. Can you do it? Find out what Viper really is, without being detected? Find a weak link we can exploit. Kevin hesitated. Just a kid again, scared. But then it passed, replaced by that sharp focus I'd seen before. I can try, he said. But I'll need better tools. And I'll need to get inside the clubhouse. The air in the room shifted. He wasn't talking about hacking from behind a screen anymore. He meant breaking in. We'd chosen our path, away from safety, away from law, into the storm. We were no longer victims. We were now conspirators. I was trying to protect my family by dragging them deeper into danger than they'd ever known. The plan was reckless. Illegal. On paper, it was a one-way trip to jail. But it was all we had. Kevin needed to plant a physical keylogger and data sniffer on the main server rack in the clubhouse. His custom-built device would record everything. Passwords, file transfers, communications, a direct line into Viper's heart. The main server is in a locked office in the back, Kevin explained, showing a floor plan he found online. Standard lock on the office door, keypad entry on the clubhouse itself, and a motion sensor alarm. So we need the code and a way to bypass the motion sensors, I said, feeling like I was in a bad heist movie. And apparently I was the muscle now. I might be able to help with the code, a voice said from the kitchen doorway. We all jumped. It was Fred, holding a plate of brownies. Stress baking, he said. Helps with the gnome anxiety. Saw the lights. Figured you were up worrying about Karen too. He looked at the floor plans spread out on the table, our hushed expressions. To his credit, he didn't run. He just raised an eyebrow. I made a choice. We needed help. And Fred hated Karen as much as we did. I told him, part of it anyway, that we suspected Karen was embezzling HOA funds and needed hard proof. Financial misdeeds, he said. You mean she's not just using our dues for ugly petunias? She's a crook. He was in. No hesitation. She changes the clubhouse code monthly, he said, but it's always something personal, her birthday, anniversary. Total narcissist. This month's newsletter mentioned the 10th anniversary of the Beautification Committee. Bet that's it. He gave us the date. That gets us in, Kevin said. Now we need to deal with the sensors. That was my job. I'd done some basic security installs years ago. Most commercial systems have a blind spot, right under the sensor. If we can map them, we can move like statues. Slow and low. We set the mission for Thursday night. School board meeting night, Karen's monthly ritual. Our only window. For 2 days, our house transformed into a war room. Kevin built the spy device with surgeon-like precision. I memorized the floor plan. Tara handled logistics and lookout. Fred baked brownies. Then came Thursday. Cold. Moonless. Perfect. Dressed in black, Kevin and I slipped out. Tara's voice came through my earpiece. All clear. Karen's car left 20 minutes ago. We crept through Ridgeview Oaks like ghosts. The clubhouse rose ahead, dark and still. Then a light came on in a nearby house. We dove behind a hedge. Hold on, Tara whispered. That's Fred's house. What is he doing? Fred burst through his front door, waving his arms. They're gone, he bellowed. My Elvis gnomes. Someone stole the king. He ran up and down the street like a madman. Lights flicked on. Dogs barked. He's drawing attention, I hissed. No, Kevin said, smiling. He's creating a distraction. He pointed. The security guard was walking toward Fred's house, muttering to himself. Shut. We sprinted to the clubhouse, punched in the code. The lock clicked. We slipped inside. Red lights from the motion sensors painted the room like lasers. Stay low. Stay slow, I whispered. We crawled, inch by inch, avoiding the sensor beams. Reached the office door. But I pulled out my lockpick set, heart pounding. The first pick snapped. Deep breath. Try again. The door opened. Inside, humming servers. Kevin moved fast, clipped on the device, connected the wires. Done. We reversed the crawl, just reaching the front when Tara's voice crackled with panic. Mark, get out now. The school board meeting was cancelled. She's coming back. She's turning onto our street. Panic surged. Go. Now. I hissed. We bolted for the door. A pair of headlights swept across the lot. Karen's SUV. But predatory. No time to escape. I grabbed Kevin's arm and yanked us into the pine shadows along the building. The SUV pulled into her spot. She stepped out, barking into her phone, and entered the clubhouse. We didn't breathe. Waited. When we were sure she was inside, we slipped away, hearts still racing. Back home, the adrenaline drained into exhaustion and fear. But we had done it. The device was in. I'm in, Kevin said from his laptop a few hours later. The screen lit up with data, logins, messages, file names, encrypted transfers. I'm filtering for anything connected to Viper, he said, typing furiously. We spent 2 days parsing the fire hose of data. And what we found was worse than we imagined. Karen wasn't just a cog. She was a regional manager. She recruited other HOA presidents across states, teaching them how to turn neighborhoods into laundering networks. She got a cut of every dollar. But the real Viper, the heart of it, remained hidden. The core files were triple encrypted. This is military-grade encryption, Kevin said, frustrated. I can see the data moving. But I can't see what it is. Then he found the chat logs. Karen had been messaging someone named Kingpin. They discussed shipments, payments, logistics. Cold. Clinical. But it was another chat that froze our blood. A conversation between Karen and David Chin, the meek HOA treasurer. The guy who stuttered through reports while Karen glared. We had all pitied him. But he was no victim. Look at this, Kevin said. This is from the night of the break-in. Karen, the school board meeting was a bust. I'm heading back. David, the distraction just started. Karen, some idiot screaming about gnomes. The guard is handling it. David, the package from Miami is uploading. Connection stable. Your paranoid friend Mark and his hacker kid haven't tried anything else. Karen, they're quiet. Too quiet. I think my little warnings worked. They're scared. They'll fall in line. My heart stopped. Fred's gnome diversion? David knew. He called me paranoid friend Mark. David wasn't scared. He was Karen's second in command. But it got worse. Kevin found a thread between David and Kingpin, planning a face-to-face handoff of physical drives. Kingpin, Miami's too hot. We need a new exchange point. David, your location is clean. Kingpin, I'll be there for the annual HOA dues collection meeting. I'll collect the drives myself, said the voice on the chat. David, you'll be there in person. That gave me pause. Is that wise? A moment passed. No one questions the new regional bank manager showing up to thank the HOA for its generous deposit. It's the perfect cover. Kevin quickly pulled up the regional bank's website and clicked the Our Team page. There he was, a photo of a smiling, clean-cut man in a suit, David Chin, regional vice president. The breath left my lungs. It hit like a gut punch. That quiet, stammering HOA treasurer who lived 3 streets over, the guy we'd written off as a pushover, wasn't Karen's lackey. He wasn't answering to some distant crime boss in Miami. David Chin was the crime boss. The mastermind had been hiding in plain sight. Karen Grayson, the suburban tyrant we'd feared for weeks, wasn't the queen. She was just middle management. We had been chasing the monster in the castle, never realizing the dragon lived next door. We had everything: chat logs, banking data, back-channel payments, proof that David Chin, the man who brought Jell-O salad to the last potluck, was running a criminal empire. The meek little mouse wasn't a victim. He was the king of the rats. "This changes everything," Tara said, pale and trembling. "We can't go public with this. He's not just a clipboard tyrant, he's a real criminal. He'll retaliate." She was right. This wasn't HOA fines anymore. This was the kind of man who made people disappear. "So," I said quietly, "we go back to Plan A. We go to the authorities. But not local. David and Karen probably send the precinct donuts every week. We need someone they can't reach." Kevin looked up. "The feds?" I nodded. "The FBI. The hardest part was finding the right person, not some anonymous tip line, but a real contact. I spent a day burning through every favor and connection I had. Eventually, I hit something. A cousin of a college friend worked as an analyst at the DOJ. I called him. I didn't give details, just enough to light a fire. Credible evidence, time-sensitive, child exploitation possibly involved. Because Kevin had cracked the encryption. What he found wasn't just piracy or stolen bandwidth. VIPER was an acronym. Video Integrated Piracy and Exploitation Ring. Horrific stuff. My DOJ contact gave me a name. Detective Daniel Harland, part of a federal task force that specialized in cybercrime and exploitation. I called. I expected to get brushed off. But Harland listened. I talked nonstop for 20 minutes. Karen, the fines, the clubhouse servers, VIPER, and finally, the twist, David Chin. I could hear Harland typing. His voice, when he spoke, was all steel. "You have proof?" "My son has a live feed from their server," I said. "Chat logs. Financials. All of it." The pause. "Mister, if you're lying to a federal officer, you're in a world of trouble." "And if I'm not?" I said, my voice flat. "Then a lot of bad people are about to have a very bad day." Another pause. "I'm sending a team. 1 hour. Coffee shop. 2 towns over. Come alone. Bring the laptop." The meeting was surreal. Harland and another agent were already seated, sharp suits, sharp eyes. Harland looked worn down, a man who'd stared too long into the abyss. I handed over the laptop. Kevin had built a summary file, a roadmap of the entire operation. Harland read. His eyes got darker with every scroll. "Your son did all this?" "He was protecting his family," I said. Harland nodded slowly. "This is enough to move. You said there's a meeting?" 3 days. Saturday. Clubhouse. It's the annual HOA dues presentation. David Chen's coming to collect the physical drives. Public setting. Harland smiled grimly. "Then we're going to the HOA meeting." The plan was simple. Agents would be planted throughout the room. They couldn't arrest Chin until he took possession of the drives. They needed that moment to nail him. My job? Make sure the handoff happened and create a distraction. Harland leaned in. "We need a trigger. A signal. Start a scene. Get in Karen's face. Be the angry homeowner. Loud enough to buy us 30 seconds. He was asking me, an insurance salesman, to play bait in a federal sting. My heart screamed no. But I looked at Tara. At Kevin. At the home I was fighting for. This was my fight. "A scene?" I asked, a slow grin spreading. "Oh, I can do a lot more than that." Saturday. Today. The air in the house was heavy. Kevin was at his laptop, feeding updates to the agents. Tara kept straightening my tie with trembling hands. "You sure about this?" she asked for the 10th time. "No," I admitted. "But it's the only way." I kissed her forehead. "Whatever happens in there, I love you." "Now go give them hell," she whispered. The clubhouse looked exactly as it always had, sterile, beige, aggressively normal. Inside, 30 residents buzzed around plastic chairs and coffee urns. Karen stood at the podium, smug as ever. David Shin sat beside her, playing the meek accountant role to perfection. He checked his watch. I spotted an agent by the door. He gave me a small nod. It was time. The meeting droned on. Landscaping contracts. Budget amendments. A rule about mailbox flags. My heart hammered in my chest. Then Karen introduced a special guest. A woman in a suit walked up. "From the bank," she said, "to thank the HOA." She handed David a silver briefcase. That was it. The handoff. David set the case beside him and looked relieved. "Showtime." I stood. "Excuse me," I said, my voice slicing through the hum. "I have a question." Heads turned. Karen scowled. "Mark, we have an agenda." "I'm not waiting," I said, walking forward. "My question's about the budget. Specifically, the part used for harassment and illegal surveillance." "Guess." Karen's eyes narrowed. "You're out of order." "Am I?" I stepped closer. "Is it out of order to ask why my family got hit with $1,000 in fake fines? Or why our internet was hijacked? Maybe your treasurer can explain. Maybe he can tell us what Viper means." The name hit like a grenade. Karen flinched. David turned chalk white. His hand dropped toward the briefcase. "FBI. Nobody move." The room erupted. The bored-looking dad by the door pulled a gun and badge. Agents swarmed. Karen screamed. David grabbed the briefcase and bolted for the exit. But someone blocked his path. Fred, holding a garden gnome like a baseball bat. "You're the one," he growled. "You told her to take my gnomes." David tried to sidestep, but Fred swung. The gnome smashed the briefcase with a crack. Drives flew across the floor. David went down, tackled by agents. Karen was cuffed before she could blink. It was over. Fred looked down at the chipped gnome, then back at me. "Sorry about Norman." I grinned. He died a hero. The aftermath. The sirens faded, but the silence felt louder. The news trickled out. First whispers, then headlines. The HOA president and treasurer arrested in a federal sting. Ridgeview Oaks, now infamous. Tara and I sat on the porch. For the first time in months, the sunset was just a sunset. Kevin became a legend. The school gave him a 2-week suspension, unauthorized network use. Bureaucracy at its finest. Then the envelope came. A check from the new interim HOA board. Refund for every bogus fine. Inside was a handwritten note. "Thank you. You won." I looked at my lawn. Too long by HOA standards. Just the way I liked it. It was grass. But it was my grass. We had stared into darkness and dragged it into the light. Some battles are loud. Others are quiet and suburban, fought over fence heights and HOA bylaws. But every now and then, the quietest streets hide the darkest secrets. And to protect your family, you have to stop playing by the rules. Sometimes, you don't wait for justice to knock. You build the door, pick the lock, and kick it down.